Now in this chapter we are going to see what is the expression for magnetic dipole moment of a revolving electron. The atom model that we follow today is the Bose atom model, and according to that there is a nucleus at the center of an atom around which electrons are revolving in particular orbits. So this is what Bose atom model says. We are having a nucleus at the center, and around that the electrons of the atom are revolving. For this case we are considering a single electron revolving around the nucleus. So we know that wherever charge is moving, definitely there will be current. Here let us imagine this electron is moving in anti-clockwise direction, and we also know that the direction of current is opposite to the direction of electron. Therefore, the direction of current will be in clockwise direction. Now, what is the amount of current produced here due to this motion of charge? We know current is charge by time, and here electron is the charge that is revolving. But though the charge of electron is negative, the current produced is in the opposite direction of motion of electron. Therefore, the current expression is written as E by T. Why here the charge is taken as positive? The direction of motion of charge and the direction of current is in the opposite direction. That makes minus E by T as E by T. Thus the current produced here is E by T. Now let us consider the velocity with which the electron is revolving be V, and the radius of this orbit of our electron be R. Then the time period of revolution can be written as T time is distance by velocity. Here the distance covered by this electron in this orbit is 2 pi r, and the velocity is taken as v. Thus the expression for time period is obtained as T is equal to 2 pi r by v p. Thus the expression for time period is obtained as T is equal to 2 pi r by v, and this time period is the time taken by this electron to revolve around the nucleus. So the expression for current can be written as I is equal to E by T, which can be written as E by the expression for T here. If we substitute, we get as EV by 2 pi r. Thus the expression of current becomes EV by 2 pi r. While we discussed the earlier topics, we had seen a new quantity called the magnetic moment, and the magnetic dipole moment expression we wrote in general as I into A, where I is the current and A is the area of that loop. And here the expression for I we have obtained as EV by 2 pi r, and the area of this circular loop is pi r square, which makes the expression for the magnetic dipole moment as EVR by 2. The magnetic moment expression is obtained as half EVR. And now rearranging this expression, we can write mu as, on dividing the numerator and denominator with mass of the electron, we can rewrite the expression like this. And here the term mvr is taken as the orbital angular momentum. We know that momentum is the quantity obtained by multiplying mass into its velocity. Since it is an orbital motion, the quantity here is taken as orbital angular momentum, which is mvr. And the orbital angular momentum is represented by L. And the direction of orbital angular momentum is opposite to the direction of magnetic moment, which makes the expression as mu is equal to minus E by 2m into L. Here we have considered the motion of a negative charge, but if the charge that we considered was a positive, then the direction of motion of the charge and the direction of current would be the same. which will make the direction of magnetic moment and the direction of angular momentum to be same. Then our expression would be for a positive charge mu is equal to E by 2m into L. Now here we can see that the ratio of the magnetic moment and the angular momentum is a constant and given by E by 2me. This constant value or this ratio is named as gyromagnetic ratio. And the value of gyromagnetic ratio is equal to 8.8 into 10 to the power 10 coulomb per kilogram. For an electron, the gyromagnetic ratio is obtained as this value. Along with Bohr's atom model, Bohr also hypothesized that the angular momentum values, that is the values for L, can have a set of values which is equivalent to nh by 2 pi, where h is the Planck's constant. And its value is 6.626 into 10 to the power 10 joule seconds. And here n could be the natural numbers 1, 2, 3, etc. This condition is named as Bohr's quantization condition. The Bohr quantization condition is L is equal to nh by 2 pi and magnetic moment expression is EL by 2me. By substituting the Bohr quantization condition to the expression of magnetic moment, our term becomes ENH by 4 pi me, and the minimum value for magnetic moment, by putting these constant values and putting n equal to 1, the minimum value for magnetic moment is obtained as 9.27 into 10 raised to minus 24 am square. And this minimum value of the magnetic moment is called as Bohr magneton. So we have seen that a revolving electron has a magnetic moment value which can be related to the orbital angular momentum L, and using Bohr quantization condition we have found the another expression for the magnetic moment and the minimum value for the magnetic moment, which is the Bohr magneton, and it is equal to 9.27 into 10 raised to minus 24 am square. Now the last topic of this chapter is the moving coil galvanometer. Moving coil galvanometer might be a very familiar device for you. This is the device which is used to detect the presence of electric current. Now the principle based on which a moving coil galvanometer works is the theory that we have already learned, that a current loop placed in a uniform magnetic field experiences a torque, which is given by the expression NIAB sin theta. We know that galvanometer is mainly used as current detector, but based on the requirements we can even use the same device by making certain changes as an ammeter or as a voltmeter. So under this topic we are going to see the construction of galvanometer and how the moving coil galvanometer act as current detector and how it functions as an ammeter and a voltmeter as well. Construction of galvanometer. If we analyze the construction of a moving coil galvanometer, we can see that a galvanometer consists of a coil with many turns which is free to rotate about a fixed axis, and it is placed in a uniform magnetic field. And we know that when current will be passed through this coil, it will experience a torque and will start moving, which will move the pointer attached to this soft iron core. But along with this arrangement, there is a spring SP attached to the soft iron core which provides a counter torque, and this results in a steady angular deflection in the galvanometer. So by analyzing the construction of moving coil galvanometer, we have understood that there are two torques acting on the coil. First one is the magnetic torque, which is given by the expression tau is equal to NIAB sin theta, where N is the number of turns of the coil and theta is the angle between the area vector and the magnetic field. The radial magnetic field are placed in such a way that the angle between area vector and the magnetic field is 90 degree, that is theta will be 90 degree, which makes the expression for tau as NIAB. And we have also seen that the second torque acting on the coil is due to the spring attached to this coil, and due to a spring with a torsional constant K, the torque experienced is K phi, where K is the torsional constant of the spring. Now this torque due to the spring balances the magnetic torque and gives a steady deflection. So we can equate these two torques, from which the scale deflection phi can be written as NAB by K into I. Here we can see the terms in the bracket are constant, which is the number of turns N, it is a constant, and the area of the coil, that is again a constant, and the uniform magnetic field provided will be a constant, and the torsional constant. So these constant terms are kept in a bracket, and from which we can see that the scale deflection phi depends on current only. So the deflection phi shown in the galvanometer is based on the current flowing through the coil. So the presence of current in the coil shows a deflection in the galvanometer. Thus here galvanometer acts as a current detector. When there is no current through the coil, that is current is zero, then the deflection shown will be zero, that is the point will be placed at the neutral position, which is at the middle of the scale, and when current is passed through the coil, the pointer will show a deflection based on the direction of the current to either left or to right. This is how the galvanometer acts as a current detector. Galvanometer as an ammeter. We know that ammeter is the device used to measure current through a circuit. And we also have studied that to measure current, we connect ammeter in a series connection. But using galvanometer as such in series with a circuit, we cannot get the current measurement, because we know that galvanometer is a very sensitive device. And due to the high sensitivity of galvanometer, it might show a full deflection for a very small current of the order of microampere. So the maximum range of current that we can obtain from a galvanometer is of the range of microampere. Therefore, larger current cannot be measured using a galvanometer. So to measure a larger current, we make certain changes in the arrangement of galvanometer. To overcome this difficulty, we attach a small resistance called the shunt resistance in parallel to our galvanometer. So as a part of conversion of galvanometer to an ammeter, we are connecting a shunt resistance in parallel to the galvanometer. This is the representation of a galvanometer, where Rg is the resistance of the galvanometer. And to this galvanometer, we are going to attach a shunt resistance, a very small resistance Rs in parallel. So by attaching a shunt resistance in parallel to the galvanometer, now this arrangement functions like an ammeter. So from the conversion of galvanometer to an ammeter, we get the resistance of the arrangement as Rg into Rs divided by Rg plus Rs, where Rg is the resistance of the galvanometer and small rs is the shunt resistance. And we have already mentioned that the shunt resistance is very much small, that is Rs will be very much smaller than Rg, which makes Rs to be negligible in this denominator, and thus we obtain the total resistance of this arrangement to be approximately equal to Rs. And now if we once again observe the schematic arrangement of ammeter, the problem that we had is that for larger current we won't get any deflection. So what happens now when we pass a larger current through this arrangement? Suppose the maximum current that this galvanometer can accommodate be Ig. Then if we pass a current I which is greater than Ig, the remaining current, that is the excess current, that is I minus Ig, this much amount of current will be passed through this small resistance. Since Rs is a very small resistance, it can pass high current through it. So the excess current, which is I minus Ig, will be passed through the shunt resistance. Thus it will prevent the damaging of our galvanometer due to excess current. Here we can see that the total current I is splitted into two branches. One is Ig and I minus Ig. And these two branches of the circuit are having common points, and therefore the potential difference or the voltage through these two branches will be the same. And voltage can be written as current into resistance. Therefore, the voltage across the first branch can be written as Ig into Rg, and that is equal to the voltage through this second branch, which is I minus Ig into Rs. This is a very important relation that we obtain based on the same potential difference. Even if for high current we will get a deflection in the galvanometer, but definitely the scale will be different. That is, we know that the current that a galvanometer can accommodate is a very small current, that is of microampere range. So if a current of 2 ampere is passed here, then the galvanometer might show a deflection of 10 microampere, which would be the maximum deflection that this galvanometer can show. But that scale of the arrangement will be obtained based on the shunt resistance that we have used. So even if the deflection in the galvanometer is 10 microampere, then also based on the scale conversion, we can anticipate that the current passed is 2 ampere. And suppose the deflection is shown as 5 microampere, then we could anticipate that according to the scale conversion, here the actual current passed is 1 ampere. This is how the galvanometer can be functioned as a ammeter. Now to know the deflection shown in the galvanometer per unit current, we define the current sensitivity. Current sensitivity is the deflection per unit current, and it is obtained as phi by I, that is how much deflection phi is shown per unit current I, as NAB by K. And from the expression of current sensitivity, we also understand that to increase the current sensitivity, the convenient way is to increase the number of turns N. This is all about conversion of galvanometer to an ammeter. Now we will discuss the conversion of galvanometer to a voltmeter. So we have already seen how a galvanometer is converted into an ammeter. It is by connecting a shunt resistance, which is a very small resistance, in parallel to our galvanometer. Then the galvanometer functions as an ammeter. Here, to convert a galvanometer to voltmeter, we are connecting a high resistance in series with the galvanometer. So here, suppose, so this is the representation of our galvanometer, and to convert this galvanometer to a voltmeter, we are connecting a high resistance in series with this galvanometer. Here R is a high resistance used, which is very much greater than Rg. And now this arrangement has become a voltmeter. So what is the purpose of connecting a high resistance here? While we are measuring the voltage in a given section of the circuit, high current flowing through that circuit may cause disturbance in the voltage measurements. So to avoid that disturbance due to high current, we are connecting a high resistance which will give a hindrance to that high current. So to prevent the disturbance due to high current, we are connecting a high resistance. The purpose of connecting high resistance is to prevent the disturbance due to high current. Now this converted voltmeter has to be connected in parallel to the section of the circuit where we are going to find the voltage. We know that to measure the current, ammeters are connected in series with the circuit, and to measure voltage, voltmeter are connected in parallel to the circuit. This is a very basic and general fact regarding circuits that we have already learned in our lower classes, that ammeters are always connected in series and voltmeters are always connected in parallel to the circuit. So this converted voltmeter has to be connected in parallel to the circuit where we have to measure the voltage. Now we have to see the voltage sensitivity of our converted voltmeter. The angular deflection of a galvanometer is given by phi is equal to NAB by K into I. We have to know for a given voltage how much deflection phi we obtain. That is meant by voltage sensitivity. For a given voltage, how much deflection phi we obtain. So we are going to divide with voltage in both sides. Then our expression becomes phi by V is equal to NAB by K into I by V. We know that here I by V is 1 by R. So the expression becomes NAB by K into 1 by R. So this is the expression for the voltage sensitivity of our converted voltmeter. So here if you can see, the galvanometer resistance Rg is there, and our new R that we have introduced is connected in series with this galvanometer resistance. Two resistance are in series, so the total resistance becomes Rg plus R, and we know that R is very much greater than Rg, which makes this as R itself. So we have already seen how to convert galvanometer to an ammeter and a voltmeter, and the important factor there is the current sensitivity and the voltage sensitivity, which we have obtained as phi by I, which is the current sensitivity, equal to NAB by K, whereas phi by V, which is the voltage sensitivity, is obtained as NAB by K into 1 by R. Now we are going to see how the current sensitivity and the voltage sensitivity will change when we double the number of turns. That is, N is changed to 2N. Here phi by I, we can clearly see that will become 2 times when N is changed to 2N. That is, phi by I, which is the current sensitivity, also doubles 2 into phi by I, because this will become 2NAB by K, and NAB by K is phi by I, so 2 into phi by I. It is clearly seen that phi by I gets doubled when number of turns becomes from N to 2N. But what happens here in the voltage sensitivity? Here we can see that in the voltage sensitivity expression, we are having an extra term of the resistance. Though we are increasing the number of turns or doubling the number of turns, that is changing N to 2N, we can see that the resistance of our arrangement will also change, because increasing number of turns means increasing the length of the wire that we are using, or increasing the length of our coil. And we know that resistance is proportional to length of the wire. So increasing the length of wire will increase the resistance also. Even if N is increased, along with that an increase in the resistance also happens. So even if N becomes 2N, R also will be changed to 2R, and which will make no change in the voltage sensitivity. Though N becomes 2N, along with that R will become 2R because resistance is proportional to length, and increasing the number of turns means increasing the length of the coil. Thus, our voltage sensitivity remains as such. So, doubling the number of turns will not change the voltage sensitivity, but it changes the current sensitivity. These are the facts related to galvanometer and conversion of galvanometer to ammeter and voltmeter. With this, our chapter Moving Charges and Magnetism ends.